There's a pedal right behind my head that probably ranks as one of my favorite delay pedals of all time. Let's pull it off. This is, oh there it is, the Boss DD-20. Let's see if I can pull it off without knocking any more stuff down. This guy, I absolutely love it. One of my favorite delays ever. I don't think I'll ever sell this pedal. And this, to me, is a pedal that ranks as, I reckon in about 20 years, people are going to be looking at this as like a classic and going, man, I wish I never sold it. You can pick these up so cheap. I want to show you some of my favorite features on the DD-20. But first, let's have a listen to it in a track. I've used simple 2 guitars, just one guitar playing some chords, one guitar playing some lead, and I've used the DD-20 on drums as well, making some weird sounds. So let's have a listen to that, then I'll run through some of my favorite modes. Okay, let's just have a quick listen to some of the basic delays. This is the standard digital delay, which just sounds like digital delay. I've got the tone at noon, I've got the level all the way up so that it's at the same level as my guitar. About 300 milliseconds with the feedback at, what is that, 10 or 11 o'clock? Sounds like this. And even that I just think is a really sweet sounding digital delay. It doesn't have any of the sort of harsh high end that we normally associate with digital effects or anything like that. But what I love is the tone control lets you shape that high end. And I really like turning the tone control down. I would say to warm everything up, but really all we're doing is just sort of low passing everything. Have a listen. So that's really sweet. The tone control can help your delay sit in the mix with your guitar. If you want to go for more of like a vintage digital delay kind of thing, you can turn the tone up. Which I think sounds great. One of my favorite modes on this is the analog delay. Straight up, this sounds so much like my Boss DM2. It's kind of spooky. I really, really like it. So that's the analog mode. It does all the kind of cool slapback stuff that you would expect from an analog delay, and you know, if you hold this down when you twist the time, which is a bit awkward for me at the moment, I kind of didn't think about that, you can change the delay time a lot quicker, and you can get some of those kind of like weird analog delay, artifacty, self-oscillating things happening with the feedback all the way up. And I really like turning the tone control down on that one as well. The next one is the tape mode. We can hold down this left foot switch and choose between one head or two heads. I'll stick with one head for now. This is what the straight up tape delay sounds like with, what is that, 240 milliseconds of delay? And then what we can do is hold the foot switch down, change it to two heads, and I think from memory if we hold one of these buttons down we can get the other head speed, but I'll just give you a listen to what it sounds like on two heads to start with. Which is wonderful for the tape delay enthusiasts out there. I really like the sound of the tape delay. For me, this pedal's worth getting just for the analog mode and just for the tape mode. And finally, my other favorite mode is the modulated mode. Have a listen to this. This is just absolutely gorgeous. If you want to change the rate or the depth, we can hold this pedal down here. So what I'll do is I'll turn the rate down. And the depth up. This is what we've got. There's also a reverse mode, which sounds exactly the way you would expect it. And finally, well, I mean, there's also a couple of other modes in there, like a pan delay and a dual delay, which is very nice if you're into that kind of thing or if you're playing in stereo. But the other mode that I find myself using quite a lot is just the looper, so the SOS mode, which is pretty cool. And I won't do a loop here, but you just press this guy on and it gives you a countdown with the time remaining, and then you can turn it on and then you can layer on top of that by overdubbing on it, which is super cool. So that's all my favorite features on the DD-20. The last thing I should say is if you hold the tap button down, you can get access to tap tempo. There we go. Yeah, it is the tap button. So hold that guy down and then you can put it into tap mode by holding this foot switch down. And then just tap your tempo in and you can select the tempo type. Here, say I wanted a dotted eighth note. distorted guitars in the effects loop for some solo tones, I really like the analog delay mode, tone all the way off, effects level at about 1 or 2 o'clock, bit of feedback, sounds like this. Another favorite of mine, because I'm running in stereo at the moment, was the pan delay, which sounds like this. And they were the go-to delays for me when I was using this in my rig as kind of the main delay in my effects loop, either for rhythmic delay or to turn on for solos. So I absolutely love the way that sounds on the DD-20. It's great for lead delays. One of the nice things about the DD-20, and probably one of the more overlooked things, is that you can also generate other effects that aren't just delay. I'll show you a couple of those now. At the moment I'm on the smooth setting and I've only got about 4 milliseconds of delay dialed in. I've got the effects level all the way up, the tone at noon, and the feedback off, and essentially what this gives us is a reverb. Have a listen. And by playing around with the feedback and the delay time, essentially the delay time's a little bit like the pre-delay control on a reverb, and then the feedback is going to be, I guess, the regeneration. So that sounds really cool. That's how you can get a reverb sound out of the DD-20 in a pinch. You can also use the modulated delay mode, and now we're going to get a chorus. So essentially, if you set the feedback to 0, I'll start with the effect level all the way up so that we can hear it. Then the delay time is going to change the delay of the delay line. So for example, if we went for something quite low, we would get like a classic Boss CE chorus. Say if we started about 4 milliseconds, it sounds like this. And then by adding feedback in there, we can get a flanger style effect. If you want to adjust the amount of depth and rate in your chorus, you hold down this main foot switch, so it'll come up with rate. So if I wanted to crank the rate up, I could do that. Then if I press this button, it will give me depth. So I might turn the depth down, for example, and now we've got a different chorus altogether. Let's have a listen. And turning the tone down too far probably negates a lot of the effects, so I like to leave the tone probably about noon. That's my favorite kind of chorus sound, and I like the low rate, high depth kind of chorus thing. Let me just grab a hold of this again, so turn the rate down. Oops, I need to hold that down, and then I'll crank the depth to 100. And this gives you a great classic Boss chorus kind of sound. I really like it. Two other modes that I think sound really great are the warp and twist mode. In twist mode, essentially, it gives you like a self-oscillating delay. So if I just play a chord and then hold the left foot switch down, I get this. Which is great for like the ends of songs, and you know, if you're in the studio tracking weird stuff, that's pretty cool. And then warp does this. So that is essentially a hold style effect. Both of these are really effective. You know, if you're playing music where you're using delay more as like an extra textural effect rather than just to do kind of rhythmic stuff. This gives you some cool options to sort of emulate keyboards and emulate old funky analog gear, which I really like. So that's how I like to use the kind of bonus features in the DD-20. So even though there's other pedals out there now, like the Timeline, the Time Factor, the new Boss DD-500, I've tried all of them, own them, move them all on. The DD-20 for tones just kind of hits the spot for me. Sure, it doesn't have all the features that a lot of other pedals do, but it has a grab-and-go simplicity that I really love. And most importantly, the delays sound wicked. So I definitely recommend picking one of these up if you see one cheap. You can normally see them around the $140, $150 mark, or even lower than that if you're lucky. So if you see one, grab it, and enjoy. Go make some music with the Boss DD-20. I'll see you guys around.